Hey everybody, it's Becca here with video 30, which means it's Friday. Happy Friday! Yay! I really look forward to Fridays. I find I have such screen fatigue by Friday, and typically such creativity and feedback fatigue, right? Because it's kind of always the new ways to do things. So I love Friday and I'm very excited for the weekend, and I hope you are too. Okay, so for today's lesson thought, I've wanted to share this improv game. And I wasn't quite sure maybe how it would work. And I think I've got the way that you would tie it in, but it's a great game. So if nothing else, here's a game for you. Whether it develops into a full lesson, I'm not sure for you, but let's talk about pantomime, or really it's not even so much pantomime as it is space objects. Space objects, that's a concept from Viola Spolin, right? And it's about, if you show me your cup, right? And so you pick up your mug, right? Or, and can you drink, right? And you're using an imaginary object. So space objects. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Well, there's a game that I love that talks, that kind of gets students going, I guess, in space objects, and it's Big Fish, Little Fish. Now, I will tell you, I just want to be honest, in 7 years of using this game, I have students who love it or hate it, and that tends to be by classes. So it works with a class and it doesn't work with a class. It always works, but whether they love it, I guess, when I say works is what I mean. But the game is very simple. If we were in a physical classroom, we would stand in a circle and I would have everybody show me their arms and a small fish. This is kind of hard because I'm holding the camera. So just imagine my fingers were two hands instead of my fingers, okay? So I would hold up two hands and, kind of small in front of my body and say little fish, okay? And I would make everybody do little fish. And then I would say big fish. And so imagine my hands are like really wide apart, right? So big fish, little fish, big fish, little fish, okay? So that's kind of, and then you start in a circle and one person starts and they turn to the person on, let's just say in this instance on their left, and they hold up their hands and say either big fish or little fish and give it to the person. And that person who's receiving it has to say with their hands the exact same width as that person, big fish or little fish. And so they receive it. So it's little fish, little fish. And then that next player gets to turn to their next player, and then they can change it to a big fish or little fish. And you pass it around. What you then do after you've done big fish, little fish, and everybody's matching object size and accepting offers, by little fish, right? They have to say what they get when they get it before they can pass what they want. You then open it up and explain, okay, now listen, you can send it to anybody that you want in the room, and now you can use any fish you want. So if you're going to send a little tiny flick of a fish, right? Or if you're going to send a whale, right? And big whale or swordfish or catfish, I mean, it's really fun. A puffer fish is, right? But whatever you choose or whatever they want to do, there's no limit after you do one round of big fish, little fish. So here's how this works then in the online classroom. This is clearly a synchronous task. I have no idea I guess actually I do sort of know how you do it asynchronous, but let's go synchronous. So in class, what you would do is, Joe Bob is going to start. So you've explained big fish, little fish, and he's going to say, Susie, and he's going to say little fish, Susie, and then Susie receives the little fish, and then it's like Michael, big fish, or little fish, right? And so they pass it with their names. And then when you want to, you turn it into throwing and really working with them on, if somebody throws you a whale, you don't just get to be like whale, you have to be like whale, and like really get into it, and really just play with receiving. So space objects in the virtual classroom is super fun, a great way. This is a great lesson to then extend into further space objects, talking about receiving, the physicality of receiving. You can scaffold this up, you can scaffold this down. Asynchronous, here's my thought that I had just while sharing the video, is that with asynchronous, they would just make the video and tag it as a challenge, right? So I'd be like, hey, Susie, I'm sending you my little fish. And then Susie would have to make a video that's like, I got my little fish. Hey, Michael, right? I think there's some delay with that. Might be more fun with the other fish type. So there's the idea, big fish, little fish. I think it's a great game and really great to work with Viola Spolin space objects. Highly recommend that. If you don't know about Viola Spolin, that's another great task, or another thing you can do is have students research Viola Spolin and create an infographic, or take one of her games and teach it. Those are all things I do. But big fish, little fish. Hope that helps. I will see you next week. Have a great weekend and try to get off the screens a little bit just to refresh yourself. See you next week.